Greetings, strangers. Today is November 15th, 2018. Today what I want to talk about is more 2018 elections for midterms. Mariah talked about the Georgia elections and what's happening there. That is a really good example of election tampering and election fraud. There is also another area, and that's Florida, where we're seeing another location where tampering is happening. Okay, strangers, so I've been trying to do this video for at least 2 hours now, and this is just very confusing. It's an absolute and utter complete mess. It's really hard for me to keep track of everything because there's just so much going on. There was tampering in 2016 during the primary elections there for Democrats. There was ballots missing information, and now what we have is there was issues with mail-in ballots this time. There have been problems since 2016. There's probably been problems in this county long before then. There's probably been issues in this county long before 2016. I mean, at least we know 2000 was a major one. The issue is that this county is heavily Democratic. Because of that, it seems like they've been ignored as far as the problems that they're having. Up until now, because now it's affecting the Senate races, it's no longer affecting just the local area, now it's affecting the Senate race as well as the governor race. I completely understand why Republicans are frustrated with what's happening in Florida, because it's unclear as to who actually is winning, being this is a heavily Democratic area. It could be a Democratic governor, it might be a Republican governor, it might be a Democratic senator, it could be a Republican senator. It's too close to call. In a heavily Democratic county, it shouldn't be this difficult. Unfortunately, it is, because of how it's been run, because of all the problems that are blatant there. A lot of experts don't want to call it voter fraud because they see a lot of errors that could easily be seen as mistakes, not necessarily legitimate grievances, but they're also seeing discrepancies that are rather alarming, which is causing them to take a bigger focus on it, which is why Rick Scott had actually sued the county, or sued Brenda Snipes, the supervisor of elections, because things weren't looking on the up and up, and he basically wanted to have someone go in there and tell him that everything was actually okay and fine and on the up and up. Everybody he sent in has said that it is, but they're saying that because they're not sure they're not really sure if there's an actual problem or not. They're seeing errors, they're seeing issues happening, but nothing that blatantly comes out and says, yes, this is legitimately a problem. Rick Scott has known that this has been a problem since at least 2016 and has done nothing about it. I would argue that it's because it's not really affected him at all. Now it is, so now he's making a big deal out of it. My thought on that is that, well, that's great you're making a big deal out of it now, but you should have been making a big deal out of it before when it didn't affect. We should all be worried about making sure that everybody's vote counts. And it sounds like in this county, that's not happening. We are hearing of ballots being destroyed, ballots are going out with not all of the information or missing information. These ballots are also set up and designed to be as confusing, so people miss voting on something that they may actually want to vote for if they weren't looking for it carefully enough. There's also signs that the 23rd district of that county has not, their information was left out of for public knowledge for a while, because the polling tapes are supposed to be posted, apparently, according to Florida law, for all polling places. All the places in that county that had displayed polling tapes had not had the 23rd district listed for the longest time. So, what's happening there? And polling tapes, if you don't know, are actually the information on what's being voted on the machine itself. So literally it ticks off. It doesn't say who the voter is, just ticks off, well, according to what I have, this is how people voted on my machine, on this machine. And so those rolls should be posted publicly for everybody to see. They were not seeing those. That's a problem. There's lack of transparency on that. We don't know what's really going on there. I find it frustrating when I hear people say that there's nothing really going on. They're just counting, all we're doing is counting votes. Well, that's great that we're counting votes, but we also need to take a deeper look here in this county and figure out what's going on. It seems like there's been a lot of mistakes over the last 2 years, and nothing's changed to correct those mistakes. It doesn't seem like, despite the problems or despite the lawsuits that happened in 2016, the problems and mistakes continue. Clearly, the issues were not addressed, or if they were, they weren't addressed properly, in which case I have to question Snipes' ability to be a supervisor of elections. It's a valid question because these problems are still existing, and I find it interesting that when she was questioned on people asking for her to be removed from office, her response is that she would have to check with her family to see what they want to do. Well, that's not the appropriate response, because if you are the supervisor and you are seeing all of these mistakes happening, you should be doing something about it. Simply stating that, oh, well, we've made mistakes and things happen. Okay, yes, we get that. Mistakes do happen. But we're seeing it consistently through every election so far. So what are you doing to solve this problem? Because it doesn't seem like you're doing much. And that's where the frustration comes in. With all of the mistakes that have been happening through all these elections, in this one county, it's similar mistakes every time. At what point does it stop being a mistake? And at what point are we going to say, yes, you know what? There's just too much evidence to show something fishy, funny is going on here. We're going to have to hold someone accountable and make them pay for what's happening here, because it doesn't seem like that's been done. Like, I know that there's been lawsuits, which is great, but I think that the governor needs to step in at this point, remove that person from office, and be like, we need somebody else in there that's going to actually make this work. It's too late to solve the midterm election. It's too late. The damage that has been caused in this county has been caused. There's no way to solve it. There's no way to fix it. We're just going to have to deal with it yet again. We can't ignore what's happening here and brush it off until the next time it happens again. The way it's looking, this county is going to have problems again. They need to be solved. They need to be addressed, whether it is actual voter fraud or not. At best, Snipes needs to be removed. At worst, everybody in that office needs to get booted, and they need to bring in completely fresh people, because that's really where they're at. That county is losing confidence in its officials that handle elections. That's not healthy for a democracy. For a democracy to work, everybody who is voting needs to understand and have faith in the process. And that county is zero faith in that process right now, because their votes are not being counted properly, if at all. The information that they're given isn't completely accurate. That's a problem that needs to be solved. I wanted to go in deeper context with it, but again, this is such a mess. There's no time for this type of video to go into all the details. I'm just brushing the surface here. I encourage anyone who's interested to please do some searches on it. I will post in the description information that I have, that I've found, so you can see where I'm coming from and the information that I'm seeing. But this whole thing is just an absolute debacle. Okay, strangers, that's what I have for you today. I will see and hear from the rest of you throughout the week, and I will talk to you guys next Thursday. TBA.